begin in a couple minutes. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody today to our Best of Breed webinar series. In this session, we will be spotlighting HaloITSM. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please ask them in the chat box on the side, and we will answer all of them at the end during the Q&A session. With that, I will hand it over to Mark McGinn. Mark, it's all yours.
Everybody to the session. So as Robbie just says there, we'll be talking about HaloITSM today. So before we do anything on that, just for those of you that don't actually know who I am or who MarXtar are, just a 30,000 foot view of what's there. We've been around since 2008, but as an organization, we've been working with different service management or endpoint management security products for way beyond that. We've got a long history, in particular in this particular market segment. So I'm the founder of MarXtar. I work primarily out of the UK, and we really drive on the quality of the delivery, so whether that be from an implementation service perspective, but more importantly, the ongoing usage of systems. You know, we're really focused on making sure people get the value out of the systems that they've invested in, rather than just having a successfully install and then walk away and leave people to their own devices. And that's where a lot of our service types of offerings come in. And that's especially where our best of breed portfolio comes in, because that's really the purpose of the series this week, and this is the last one that we've got scheduled for this week, is we know that every organization is different. And while in, say, in the service management area, you may think all the tools are very similar, they do have very key differences in how they approach and how they work with different organizations. So rather than try to work with absolutely everything, we've selected a key portfolio of vendors where they have particular differences in the way in which they work in order to address those individual needs for the variety of different customers that we work with. Now, talking about customers, we've worked with people both from the UK perspective, the US perspective, across the world, across various different verticals. No particular vertical do we specialize in. We work across them all, but also variety of different sizes, whether that be from the very small to medium enterprises up to the large multinationals within there. So, but why Halo? Without particularly trying to take the thunder away from Paige, who will be presenting shortly, there's a few things here just to give you an idea. We see it's got a very intuitive and modern UI, which is a very important driver for people these days. You know, being able to use the system in in an intuitive way without having to spend a lot of time trying to work out how to do things. From my perspective, from a UK headquarter perspective, that's really good for a UK market, but they do also have a global presence as well, have been expanding out into the US, also out into Asia Pacific as well. Very extensive range of integrations, which can be very important as well. So knowing that likelihood is you're going to have something within that's going to connect to the systems you need to do. But also one of the simplest pricing models around, as Paige will allude to. What you see, is what you get, that's what you pay for. So that can also be really important. But without any further ado, let me hand you over to Paige from Halo and the ITSM solution to talk you through Halo as an organization and also present the solution. Over to you, Paige.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks everyone for joining. I'll just start sharing my screen so you've all got that there. I'll give you a quick background just on myself. So I'm the sales manager for Halo ITSM, but my background's actually in consultancy with Halo. So I used to work implementing the product with people. So hopefully as we're going through the system today, you'll be able to get that vibe. So we'll be flipping between the configuration side as well as the UI, the portal and the agent side of the application. I'll give you a quick history on Halo ITSM. I won't bore you with a long PowerPoint on that or anything, but just so you've got an idea, we were actually founded in 1994, so that gives us just shy of 30 years of experience in the industry, and that's experience with customer feedback, which is how we like to develop the product. It's purely based on an ITSM, ESM use case, so the whole system's been built out based on customer demand and blended with ITIL ESM best practices. Is an entirely web-based application and built in the same framework as Facebook, so React, which allows us, as Mark mentioned, to have a very nice intuitive UI, and it also allows us to develop features very quickly, which is why we can react to that customer demand. It also means as well that the system is very fast and you're not going to be sat staring at a loading screen, so hopefully you're not going to be frustrating all of your agents in the system. As Mark mentioned as well, we are a global company, so our head office is in the UK, but we do have offices out in America and Australia, which allows a full 24/7 support. So you're always coming through to experts, all in-house teams, no call centers or anything like that. What I'll do today, I've created a trial environment of the system, which you can do straight from our website. The only adjustments I've made is some branding on the portal. Everything else that you see is completely out of the box. We are quite rare in the fact that we do just allow anyone to start that trial and play around with the platform. So I think it is important for you to be able to fully test and see everything that the software has to offer. To quickly go through what you're seeing here, so this is the homepage for the agent side of the application. So this is one of our in-app dashboards that we've built for the trials. All of these widgets that you're seeing at the top here are completely drilled down. So if you see that there are 10 unassigned tickets come through, if I click on there straight away, I'm through to that list of tickets and I can begin to work on them. Any of the reporting and charts that you've got in the system can be used for these dashboards. It's a SQL database, so any of the fields, any of the data, the responses and actions can be reported on. You can even have your ticket lists live on the dashboards as well. So if you want to see anything quickly that's breaching SLA, for example, you can hover over, expand them details and click straight in to work on there. Before I kind of go through some of the main modules and the system setup, if I just go to configuration, it's quite important to show that, as Mark mentioned, there is no modular pricing structure. All of the features that you see here are included in the agent costs. So if you wanted to expand your use of the system and start using sales, start using purchase orders, time management, you just turn on the modules that you want. There's no paywalls or barriers that you're going to be shown with. It's the same for the integrations as well. Any of the integrations that you want to use, you just turn them on to start using them. And as Mark mentioned, there is an extensive list on here that is constantly being built out by our team. I'll show you across here. So as I mentioned before, the system is built out for a full ESM use case. As you can see here, you can build out not just your IT department, we've got HR facilities in here. There is nothing stopping you bringing in finance, legal, your sales team, kind of everyone, as many people as you want to utilize the system and streamline your processes and make sure that you have that single pane of glass to work from. It's entirely possible. I think the best place to start today is in the incidents area, so we can just go through the basics for those that haven't seen the platform before. So what you're seeing here is the tickets and incidents through, split out by team. Quite nice features of the system is that if you need to reassign, you can simply drag and drop tickets within each other. very intuitive, very simple to make them changes. It's the same for merging and linking tickets as well. So if I just drag this ticket onto the one below, I can select whether I would like to merge or link this ticket. And that can be done on bulk. So say you have 50 emails through, all about the same issue, you can quickly select all and then drag them onto one and merge them all together, saving a lot of time rather than just going through individually. If this doesn't work for you and your structure of the company, you can change this to view by type, by agent, by status, and you can create your own lists in the system, which are really powerful to allow you to specifically say what's important for you to see. For example, if say I wanted to be aware of anything that's coming in that is high priority, all I need to do is quickly add a filter onto this saying that this is going to include everything with priority 1. Save that list and straight away that is there for us to use. So hopefully you can see how making them changes is very quick and simple to do. If I go back to by team by now, looking here at the columns that we see, as you'd expect, you can click on a column to reorder by, you can search, type to search for any of these to filter out the list. Editing these columns as well is quite important. So if you go to edit columns up the top here, you're presented with the list of fields that's currently being used. You can then drag and drop these around to reorder them, take away any that might not be relevant, and add in any that you might want to see. And this includes any of the fields in the system, even custom fields that you've added. So, for example, if I want to add category to that list, I can drag that in where I want that to be and save that, and straight away that's been added there for me. I think what's best for us to go to next is raising an incident and just quickly going through the out-of-the-box workflow that we've got set up. So if I go to create a new ticket manually, I will select this against myself. And let's use an example of we've got an issue with the printer. What's quite important is that these text boxes that you see are all rich text, so they will support screenshots, links, images being embedded, anything like that without messing up your formatting. So you can just straight away put in what the problem is. I will set the category and the impact and urgency. Out of the box, we have a priority matrix already set up to set the priority of the ticket based on the impact and urgency. I will also link this to a printer that we have stored in the system. If I go to submit this ticket, you may have seen this suggested articles pop up at the side here. This can suggest any knowledge base articles to you automatically based on the keywords that you're using in the ticket or based on the category that you're setting. And it can allow your agent to quickly click into that article, view the contents. It might help them solve the issue, or it might be something that they want to send across to the end user. If that's the case, if they click send with next action, when they go to email the user, that's going to pop a link to the article in there for them. And that's the article on the portal for them. So you're pushing them to that self-service portal. I'll briefly talk you through what you're seeing here. So you've got your main progress screen. So any updates from the agent or the user will all appear on here, all time and date stamped. You've then got your ticket details, so the SLA information, the type of ticket that it is and its status, and then your end user details. As you can see, you can call people straight from Microsoft Teams from the ticket as well, and that will also work with Zoom and other systems. We have built out our Teams integration very thoroughly. We've responded from the pandemic from a lot of people suddenly working from home. Teams became a big role in a lot of people's lives. So you can from messages from Teams, you can raise tickets, you can embed your portal in Teams, you can take part in approvals from Teams, and we're releasing at the end of this quarter a user bot for Teams as well. I'll briefly walk you through some of these actions, and then we can move across to the portal. So escalating to second line, fairly self-explanatory. That's going to push that across automatically to our second line team. What's quite nice is that you can have this work as a bit of a training exercise if you like. So if I'm a first line technician, escalating this to second line, I'm going to automatically become a follower of the ticket, and I will be BCC'd into any communication. So how that second line technician resolves the issue, I will learn from and hopefully not have to escalate that next time. Emailing the user is going to set the status to with user, which will pop the SLA on hold. You can then send out automatic reminders to your users so they are aware that the ticket's on hold with them, and you can suggest that if you don't hear back from them in a week, 2 weeks, that ticket will be automatically closed down. It can save a lot of time with your agents not having to manually chase people that maybe the issue has resolved itself and they haven't let you know, or maybe they just don't care about it anymore and they just don't want to respond. You can also create appointments in the system. The system can be integrated with your Outlook calendars, your Google calendars. So no matter where you're looking, you have complete visibility over your schedule. If you are integrating this with your Teams or other systems, for example, you can create an appointment type for a Teams meeting, and that will actually send out the Teams meeting invite straight from the system as well. So you don't need to log in the ITSM that there is an appointment going on, then go into Teams and send out your invite. That will all work from that one action there. You can also store your suppliers and vendors in the system. So say this was an issue that I had to actually take to the supplier of the printer. I can quickly select that supplier from a list that will pull across their contact information, log that ticket with them, set the status in Halo to with supplier. When they respond, it will keep track of whether they're responding within the SLA agreement that we have with them. That will update the ticket in here. So you don't have to worry about going into your emails to deal with the vendors and suppliers and then going into the ticketing system to deal with the users. It's just one place to go to deal with anything to do with this issue. And it's all audited and all there for you easily. If I go to resolve this ticket, how we have this set up is that this will be sending across an email to the user, so you can pop across your resolution information. Wherever you see this blue envelope icon, you can untoggle this if you want to, so it doesn't actually send that email out. That's a setting that you can set in there. If I go to send this, I will also get a preview of how this email looks as it's applied to the template. As you can see in our resolution emails, we include this one-click feedback, so users can say how they're finding the service. You can keep the smiley faces, you can change them to thumbs up, thumbs down, that's entirely up to you. And we do also have full surveys that you can build out in the platform, but we find most of the time people won't want to answer them full surveys every time that they're having a ticket resolved. You can say, send out our survey on 20% of tickets, and then every other case, just send this one-click feedback out, which we find gets the most results in. So if I send that and push that across, that's going to close our ticket down. I think it's quite important to quickly show you exactly kind of how that incident workflow is set up on the configuration side. So if I go through to here, this is our in-app workflow builders. So you can see if the ticket's coming through, we're at that triage step to begin with. Because I was manually raising that, I have it so it skips the triage step and it's automatically in progress here. So that's why we had all of these options available. If you want to edit any of the stages in the workflow, you can do so very simply by going in and saying what you want to happen. So it could be something that I want to automatically occur. It could be something that I want to allow manually the agent or the user to perform on the ticket, something to happen off the back of a timer or off the back of a different outcome. So whether that's from another process in the system. But we like to have all of our configuration items set up so there is no code. You can go in, it's intuitive to make them changes. What's also important, I find, is the ability to clone the different workflows and the different ticket types. So you can make sure that if you're wanting to adjust this, you can clone this and then test out your changes. If you're wanting a very similar workflow to this with a small few tweaks for a different form or a different type of ticket, you can just clone them and then most of the heavy lifting is done for you. And that is the same for the actual ticket types and forms that you're building out as well. So this is our incident form. I can go ahead and clone this and make small adjustments if I want that changed. Adding fields onto the forms as well is very simple and building out your own bespoke forms. If I go to edit this, You can drag and drop like with before the fields around. I can go to add another field in. It could be one from the list that we already have created, or it could be a completely bespoke field that I'm wanting to build in the system. For example, if I wanted to create a new list field, I would just select that from the type. So let's do a single select list. We'll have it as a standard drop-down, and we'll do a static list, but you can also do dynamic lists if you want the list values to update dynamically based on new fields being added to the system. Let's just do a 1 to 5 count on there, save, and straight away that custom field is being created and is ready to be used in any of the forms anywhere in the system. I think the best place now is for us to go across to the portal, and then we can have a look at the end user functionality, because it's very important to make sure that the users have a simple process to follow and not making it hard for them to raise tickets for them to find help. The first thing that we try to do on the portal to make this a possibility is show anything that is currently experiencing issues. So if you have services in the system, such as Microsoft Teams, so your Office emails, and there might be maintenance going on, there might be known faults, you can quickly flag this to any users on the portal. Users could then go ahead and click into this service and view the details of this fault. They could select to be kept updated on this fault and be emailed when this is fixed or anything occurs on it, or they could actually log a new incident against that service, and then that will be linked to the issue that you had going on for this fault anyway. Another really nice feature of the portal is our live chat. So you can use the live chat to search knowledge base articles based on what the user is saying. You can suggest articles to them. You can also use it to raise tickets, and that can be done in a very conversational way. So you're asking them questions and then filling out the fields based on their answers. You can also use it to start live chats with people. You can build out that chat workflow in a very similar way to how the incident and other ticket workflows are built out. If I go in here, you can see it's all very similar, drag and drop workflows. You're just deciding where their option takes you. It's particularly nice, you can have one chatbot to cover a full ESM case. So if someone selects that they're having an IT issue, you could then present them with the option to speak to someone in the IT team. Whereas if it's an HR issue, they could go through to the HR team for live chat. You can get very granular with this and kind of build this out as detailed as you want it to be. What's nice to talk through and go through next on here is the search bar. As you'd imagine, you can quickly go on here, search any of the entities in the system. So that will show you the articles, the services, the tickets. Try and give your user as much information as possible based on what they need. If I go through and look at our request catalog here, you can see at the moment this is set up for IT. Say I did want to open this catalog out for HR facilities, whoever else I had in the system, all I'd need to do is make one small change on our portal settings. So if I go through to the portal here, these are the options we're currently presenting to the users. As you can see, there are a lot more functionality that you could add in. If I go through to our request catalog, instead of just showing the IT categories, we can change this to show all services. As soon as I save that, if I refresh my portal now, that change is pushed through straight away. So if I go through to request something, I'm then shown to select, is it HR after, IT, facilities? Let's go ahead and raise a request with IT. I think a good process to showcase and go through is the new starter process, because it can be a pain point for a lot of people. It can be a process that encompasses a lot of different teams, a lot of different processes working parallel or linear to each other. I'll go ahead and fill out this form for you. I'll just pop some information there, won't spend too long kind of filling this out. As you'd imagine, like with the incident form, these fields are all completely customizable. You're deciding what is presented to the user, whether that's mandatory, you can have it as required, worn if empty, read-only field, it's completely up to you. You can also have the fields be dynamic, so only once I check that I require hardware do I have to actually fill out these hardware fields. So let's say we want a desktop without a shared drive and no administrator rights. If I go through and submit this, we can then pop over to the agent side to see how that request comes through. If I head to the requests area, this is the new starter request that I've just put through. If I click into here, you can see the first step going on is an approval process. The approvals in the system, very easy to navigate and set up and very flexible. As an agent taking part in an approval, you could either come through to the ticket itself and decide whether you want to accept or reject the ticket. You can have an approvals area where you can navigate all of anything that is waiting your approval. And you'll also be sent out an email which will allow you to view any of the fields that you're pushing through onto that email and make your decision on there. Unlike a lot of other systems, we also allow users to partake in approvals, and approvals could just go to any email address. If I head over to our approval processes here, you'll see the range of flexibility that we have for them. So as I mentioned, it could be an agent, it could be a user, an email address, it could be a cab that you've set up in the system. Your cabs also can be synced to your Azure and other identity management systems. The system can even look to see who your manager is in Active Directory, or even your second level manager in Active Directory, and push that automatically to them. There's a whole host of other options for that approval process as well. Another quite important one is the approval process rules. These allow you to build out different rules based on criteria of the ticket and the user, and then decide who you want that approval to go to based on that criteria. So it could be you're having an equipment request come through. If the cost is under a certain amount, we don't care too much. We're going to approve this automatically. If it's over a certain amount and specific modules and equipment is required, go to one person or go to a different cab. You can fully kind of build out the options in here very easily and make sure you've just got one approval process to cover all of the different scenarios. If I head back to the ticket for now, then I'll go ahead and accept this and save that change. That will then kick off the next stage of our new starter request. The new starter request out of the box uses a ticket template. Templates are very important, not just for requests, also they're very useful for change requests, for projects, for problems, for a lot of different areas of the system and across a lot of different departments, because they allow you to preset different ticket fields. So you can say, if this template is applied, send it across to this team, start this workflow, or fill out any of the fields on the ticket based on the template. So you can imagine if this was a change request, say it's a firewall change that happens quite often, I can apply that template for that firewall change, and most of the fields are filled out for me because the backout plan might be the same, the test plan might be the same for all of them, different scenarios. The templates also allow you to set a different to-do list against the template. So these will be checkboxes for your technician to have to work through. And it also allows you to set up different child tasks based on this template being applied, which can be particularly important for processes like the new starter request. The first child ticket to be created here is to create the user in Active Directory, and that's set to be created once the approval has gone through. So that's why this is now on the ticket here and has gone to the relevant team to deal with that task. Our next task, to install their software, is going to be created once this one's being closed down, if the approval was successful, and only actually if we checked that they required hardware on the form. So you can get very granular with this process. You can make sure that these tasks are only being created if they are relevant in that specific scenario, and they're only being created when in the process they are relevant. So technicians don't have tasks in their queue that aren't due to be worked on then. They know that anything with them is relevant and ready to be worked on. Against each of these child tasks as well, You can preset any of the values so they can all be against their own bespoke workflows. They can all have their own approval processes associated with them if you need to as well, and you can fill out any of the fields on them automatically just based on this template being applied. They can also have their own to-do list against them and things like attachments. So if you needed certain files to automatically be attached to that ticket based on the type, that can be set up in your template too. So if I go through to this ticket now, you'll see that we've got that task for the user to be created in Active Directory. It's also important to mention for a task such as this, where you might want this to be something that is automated, we do have Azure automated actions as part of your workflow. So if you are integrating with Azure or one of your systems, you can have automated actions in the workflow to create the user automatically. So this doesn't have to be a manual task for someone to complete. If I go through and check off everything in our to-do list, go ahead and resolve the ticket. I won't send an email this time because I've probably already spammed myself with about 1 million emails today. But let's just say that's been resolved and save this. If I come back to the ticket here, we'll then see them other tasks being created. So we've got that one there to install the user software. This view of the child tickets as well is very customizable. A lot of people do prefer this table view, so you've got that column profile to see. But if I go up here, I can change this easily to a different view, like a Kanban view. So I can easily see at a glance what's a new ticket, if there's anything that's in progress, or if there's anything that's being closed down. So if you're managing this request as a whole, or if you can see this being applied across different areas of the platform, like projects, you can go in and easily see kind of where your tasks are, if they're assigned to people, and what's actually being done on them. I'll pop that back to the table view for now though, and we'll head out of our requests. I think another quite important area of the system to show you is our CMDB. So if I head over to our assets area here, you'll be able to see out of the box, we have our different asset groups, and within them are all of your different asset types that you'll be able to set up and add to as you need to. As you'd imagine, the fields and the information you're storing at the different asset type levels are all dynamic. And if I head into one of these records, you'll be able to see the first view that I've got here is my overview tab. This is allowing me to see anything that's open against this asset at the moment. So how many tickets are open currently? I can click straight through to that change to see what's going on, any activity that's been going on against this asset, as well as all of its key information. You've then got access to a dependencies diagram, which will allow you to easily see if this server goes down, everything that it's going to affect. You can see the upstream, downstream relationships easily there. You've then got your different tabs against the asset, so you can see any incidents that have been raised against the asset, any requests, problems, changes, projects, anything that's going on can be shown in there. And you can keep these as separate and split up if you like, as it is here, or you could have one tickets area that you could then filter on ticket type using that filter profile there. You can then store any documents that you need to against the asset simply by dragging and dropping them on, very simple and quick. Even contracts against the asset you can store within there. If it's relevant to store the software that's installed, that will all be pulled through here. The system can be used for stock and inventory control as well, so your stock items can be related to your different assets. Probably the most important tab of the assets is the change history tab. So this shows us any changes that's going on with the asset. So whether that's it being linked to a different asset, whether that's being linked to a ticket, to a user, or any of the fields or information updating or changing, that will all be pulled through on here. All time and date stamped, and you can see exactly who made that change. I did mention suppliers earlier. This is where you could store the supplier of this asset if you want to, and it will allow you to keep track of your warranty information and any other kind of SLA information or dates and fields that you want to within there. If I go through as well, we do have a Halo Asset Discovery available, which is powered by Landsweeper, which will automatically kind of discover your assets and bring that through and keep that information up to date. We do have a lot of other asset management integrations, as you can see here. So things like Intune, Jamf, Snow, allowing you to kind of get them alerts through automatically from these systems, get your data in. If you're already using any of these, you know that you can pull that through to Halo on a sync of your choosing. As mentioned earlier, while I'm on this screen, it's worth kind of going through for you to see a lot of the other integrations that we offer as well. There's a lot of remote tools on here, allowing you to connect to things like Splashtop, TeamViewer, so you can quickly start remote sessions with your users. On the subject of remote tools as well, even if you are using a system that isn't already on this list, what you can do is build out custom integrations for your remote tools using our custom buttons. So if I say I want to create an asset custom button in here, all I have to do is decide kind of what launches when I use this button within there. You've then got your Salesforce integration, Jira, links to PowerShell as your automations and your identity systems within here. There's a lot of different options, and if I would guess, it would be kind of at least 2 a month I get added to this list within here. You can even connect to any SQL database as well and have that on a scheduled import to keep that information up to date. And we do have an entirely open API, and that's fully documented. You can access that within here and build out your own custom integrations very easily. So it's a very flexible system, even in the integrations that we allow. If I go through now, another important aspect of the system is the reporting, because you want to make sure that any data that you're getting through is easy to access, easy to export and manipulate. So if I go through, there's about 200 reports in here out of the box for you in these groups. If I click through to one of them, you can see you've got your raw report data and then any of the charts that you want against them reports. You can easily adjust the reporting period here, add in any filters that you need to, export them out to CSV, send via email. You can even set up any of the reports to be sent out on a schedule. So if I go through here, I could say, include a PDF and an Excel for me, send this report to me every Friday at 9 a.m. starting today, and that will be in your mailbox straight away. It will also automatically only send out by default if the report contains data, which means that you can use the reporting to keep track of a lot of different areas of the system. So it could be a report coming to me of all of the tickets and the relevant information that haven't had an action completed on them in the last 48 hours, 24 hours, so you can keep track and make sure that nothing is falling under the radar. As well as the reports in these groups for you out of the box, we also have a report writing team as part of the support that you get with us. When we write reports for other people, we will add them to the online repository if we have their permission. So this is just a library, if you like, for you to go through, find any reports that might be of interest for you. So say, for instance, this one here, as soon as you click on it, you're going to see that report populated with your actual data. You can then decide if you want to add this into your own library, and then straight away that's pulled through and added to your library for you to use. As well as the singular reports in here, you can also build out your composite reports. So if management are interested in seeing a group of reports once a quarter, once a month, you can quickly build out that list, and then click of a button, that report is run, generated for the reporting period that you've specified, and available to be sent across and provided to management. We briefly touched on the dashboards as well earlier, but any of these reports can be pushed through to the dashboards. It's also very important to be aware that the dashboards are very easily built out. If I go to select an in-app dashboard and go to the layout screen, I can select to add a widget, let's say for a chart showing the different feedback that we're getting currently. Straight away, that chart's been added on there for me. If I want to show a count of the tickets of incidents that we've got, which are high priority, straight away, that's showing on there for me. So you can go through, adjust the size and the look and feel, adjust the colors of this, have as many different versions of the dashboards as you want to. So for your different teams and departments, you can have different dashboards. They can be dynamic based on who's viewing them as well. And you can even present your dashboards on the portal. So if you've got management that don't necessarily have licenses in the system, but they want to keep track of your data and see what's going on, you can present them easily to them. What's also very important with the dashboards is that you can add any filters onto them that you want to. So say you've got a dashboard showing you your data, but you want to be able to easily filter that on the work stream, filter that on your team, filter that on the different locations that you provide services for. You can just add them filters onto the dashboard and then easily go through and filter on them. If I come through out of here as well, something else that's very important in the system to go through is our change control. So while we've got a few minutes before we open it up to Q&A, I'll quickly run through this. Out of the box, we separate our changes into these different lists. So you can not only see your changes of the different statuses, but also you can see changes that are occurring today, changes that you've got scheduled that are overdue, or any of the open changes that you've got going on. If I open up for you the change workflow, you can see how you can easily go through and say, so you want your first step to be that the change is being raised as a draft. You can then submit this for approval once you're ready. Once it's then through at the authorization stage, if the change is being approved, I want this to move across to implementation, where I can initiate and then complete that change. If I wanted to make an adjustment here, say, actually, if it's being rejected, instead of moving this back to the change raise stage, I want to just close that change down. All I would need to go in is adjust where that line is going within there. So it's very simple, kind of color coded to make it as easy to read and intuitive for you to make them changes within there. When you're wanting to see all of your changes and get that overview, what's also quite important is being able to view them in a calendar. For any of the views that you've got here, if you go up to the corner here, you can change to view as a calendar instead. That will give you a nice overview of anything and where it's scheduled. You can adjust that from month, week, day, as well as going through to your actual calendar within Halo. When you're in your calendar in Halo, as I mentioned before, you can integrate this with your Google Calendar, with your Outlook calendar, to make sure that anything that you've got going on can be shown in here. If I wanted to view any of the changes or any projects or any other kind of tasks that we have going on, just make sure that they're showing within here, and straight away they would appear. You can also have a timeline view, which is quite important to see amongst everyone exactly what's going on and kind of who's scheduled out for where. And also an agenda view is very nice. You can have a quick list and easily at a glance see any appointments that's coming up for anyone within your teams. Amongst this calendar, you can also add as many filters as you need to. So at the moment, I've got a filter on here for the organization, but any of our custom fields or our fields that we're creating against our tickets and our appointments within there, we can add in as filters. Let me go back to the home screen now. What I'd like to do, I don't want to go through kind of too many other areas of the system and kind of present too much information in one go, as there is a lot to go through and we can always do kind of deeper dives and further sessions if needed. What I'd like to do is just see if there is any kind of questions that's come up so far from anyone that they want to ask and go through. Be happy to kind of run through that, make sure we have enough time to go through that in enough detail.
Okay, thanks, Paige. I do have a few questions here, so let's start working through. So one of the questions is, what's involved from a cost perspective related to support or cost for a development environment?
Yeah, so with Halo, our cost is very simple, as you included earlier. So you do just pay for the license cost and the cost for the help with your implementation. So the cost for our support services are all included in your license costs. So there's nothing extra to worry about there. We don't have different tiers for support because we think that everyone should be getting that first class support from us. For a development instance as well, we do include that automatically um, with your license costs as well. So you can have a complete development environment and you can easily push through any changes that you're making in that development through to your production. You don't have to mirror them manually. So you're kind of hopefully taking out as much human error as possible. So you can just select what changes you're happy with and then push them through straight to your production. Yeah, at no extra
Okay,
cost, Mark.
thank you. So another one from an implementation side of things, how long would you say on average it takes to implement?
Mm-hmm. So obviously every kind of implementation is different, kind of depending on kind of phase one modules and processes that someone's wanting to put in. But I'd say on average, if we're talking someone about 100, 150 agents, I would expect that to be about a 3-month implementation if they were just following our kind of standard implementation plan. That can be expedited and performed in a lot quicker time frame if needed, and we have done that for a lot of people before. Innocence Movies, for example, it was about 2 weeks that they needed to put that through, so we worked with them. Sky were moving over from ServiceNow. They had over 70 different teams they needed to bring through from Halo, and that was a 10-week project with us. So yeah, it does depend on kind of resource, your side, our side, but on average, I would say probably about
Okay,
3 months.
but otherwise what it needs to be from the sounds of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
As part of that, what training would normally be provided with that?
hmm So we like to have it so every stage of your implementation, there is training involved. A very much train the trainer approach. We'll make sure that the correct people your side are involved at every stage of that implementation. So they'll be involved on the sessions and the workshops that we're putting through. All of them sessions will be recorded as well and provided to you. We'll also hold training sessions for your agents, users, admins if needed, and put together the training documentation to support that as well. But by the end of it, we want you to have almost kind of Halo champions your side, people that are very confident in using and setting up the system. So you don't have to rely on us to make them small changes. Of course, you can contact support if needed and kind of contact your consultants further if further down the line you want more changes made, but it's best for both of us really if you're confident going ahead that you can make them adjustments yourself.
Okay, thank you. Can the product be on premise as well as SaaS?
Yeah, definitely. So we can host the product our side, which is what most customers go down. We use AWS for our hosting, so it's fully secure and the proper protocols are followed. But yeah, by all means, you can host this on premise if needed. A lot of our customers have had to do this just because of their security requirements. But there is nothing stopping you as well further down the line moving from on-premise to being hosted. Sports Direct, for example, have been with us for quite a few years now and had the solution on-premise. Within the last year, they've completely migrated over to the cloud. So yeah, it's entirely possible if you do want to switch between as well.
Okay, thank you. A couple of questions around integration. When you were showing the list of integrations before, you showed a SQL integration.
hmm
So the question is, how does something like that
Yes.
work if the product is up in the cloud? How is it going to access a SQL database, let's say, if that's on
hmm
premise?
Yep. Yeah, so what we have is something that we call the Halo integrator. This is what you would use to set the schedules for each of your integrations and make that connection to the on-premise integrations as well. So the Halo integrator runs the SQL database or the SQL database integration. And yeah, as long as this, you could store this and host this your side, and then that will be able to speak to that and run that and build through that. SQL
Right,
integration
so
that
no
way.
need to open up firewalls or anything to get to a database. Okay.
No.
And if there's an integration that somebody wants that's not on the list, what happens with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if there's an integration, and we'd first see if that's something that we can make kind of bespoke using the API connections, if that's allowed with the other piece of software or whatever it is. If there's a bespoke one that you want us to build, we can certainly kind of look into that our side. That's how we've built out our list of integrations, is by kind of customer demand and customer suggestions. If it's something that's particularly important to you, we'll definitely kind of get you on a session with our integrations developer, kind of scope that out fully and see exactly what's to be involved there. And if it needs to be kind of something that's put into your contract when you're signing that we will deliver on that integration, we definitely kind of put that through for people.
Okay, appreciate that. Now that's all the questions I have at the moment. So is there anything you'd like to cover following on, maybe to wrap up, or have we covered everything we need to do for today?
Mm-hmm. I think for today, I don't want to kind of chuck too much at people to begin with, because I know there's a lot to kind of take in with the system. There is a lot of functionality, as you can see, and you can really expand and grow just kind of as much as you need to. We've got people in here that have about 70, 80 kind of teams in here, all using the system in parallel. It's important to note as well that we use roles to completely silo out the different areas from each other. So you're only seeing here what's relevant to you. You're only kind of going in and working on what's needed. As you'd imagine, if you've got your HR data in there, that can be very sensitive. You don't want other areas to have access to that. So it's kind of completely controlled by you and the admins that you put through. But yeah, in terms of functionality wise, I think if we stick to what we've done for now, we can always do kind of further sessions to dive into other areas of the system in a bit more detail.
I mean, that makes sense. There's a lot to cover in such a short period, but good job there. Thank you for doing that for everybody. So before we wrap up then, just to remind everybody that if you do have any additional questions, then you can just reach out to us using the email address that's on the slide here, or give us a call, whether you're out in the US or if you're in the UK. But immediately following this, at the end of this session, you should be redirected through to a web form where you'll be able to request a more in-depth demonstration with Paige or one of our colleagues to look at how the HaloITSM system can more specifically meet your organization's needs beyond the high level that she's been able to go through for us today. But other than that, I want to say thank you to Paige. Thanks for presenting that. And that's the end of the session. Thanks everybody for attending.
Yeah, thanks Mark. Thanks for organising it all, and thanks everyone for attending.
Bye-bye.